Welcome to the latest edition of the Gramophone Podcast. I'm Martin Cullingford, editor of Gramophone, and today I am joined by the conductor and harpsichordist Christophe Rousset to talk about his new album of Christmas music by the 17th century composer Charpentier, called A Baroque Christmas, and recorded with the Monteverdi Choir and English Baroque soloists, and released on the ensemble's own label, SDG. Christophe, hello.
Hello.
Now, let's begin with an introduction to the first work on the album, Charpentier's telling of the Christmas story in Nativitatem Domino Canticum, sometimes referred to as an oratorio. It presents the Christmas story using texts drawn from both the Old and New Testament, the first depicting the waiting for the Messiah, the second largely from the perspective of the shepherds talking about his arrival. So what do we know of when and why this work was written and how it might first have been heard?
No, I will be very disappointing because we don't really know about that. Charpentier has written a few pastorals for Christmas time in different settings. This one is probably the more, let's say, developed in the form. Usually it's with just two viols as a dessus and a small vocal ensemble. Here we have a more developed form with the four parts orchestra and recorders, a real choir and soloists. So this one is probably the most interesting piece of this genre in Charpentier's music.
And so the score that he left that we've inherited, is it very complete, or did you have to do a certain amount of work on it?
It is complete because Charpentier luckily made a very clean copy of his works. So we have the whole collection in Paris in the library, in the Bibliothèque Nationale, and we have everything copied with a lot of care by the composer himself. So it's quite a fortune for us, and so it's very precise. We know exactly how to interpret this music and in which settings and with what instruments and what reprise and things like that, because it's often, for instance, at the end when we have the little song of the shepherds, it is a little complex with the form, but actually you just have to read what he what he indicates on the bottom of his score, and it's actually very clear.
Yeah. No, it's there's a wonderful sense of story telling through it, both in terms of how he sets things, but the music in general. So the first part is in C minor, the second part more jubilant in C major, and then in the middle we have this lovely sort of interlude, nuit, with this sort of gently rocking motion like a cradle at night, and the whole thing has a wonderful sense of direction and drama.
Mm-hmm. It's true that Charpentier couldn't write opera himself before the death of Lully, because Lully had the privilege and he really blocked his colleagues in Paris, and so he was the only one to be able to write and conduct opera. Charpentier could write some pastorals and cantatas for private use, and he develops his own dramatic sense through those works. And of course, when Lully dies, he will be able to represent his Médée, which is a masterpiece. But before, he had only small forms at his disposal. So this is an example of a very small form, but with a sense of dramaturgy. It's true. And so an overture, then presentation of the situation, and then this night, which is the magic night of Christmas, described with just music, with a wonderful music, really very concentrated, very let's say in a devotion, really. And Charpentier excels in this kind of music, which has a lot of atmosphere and recueillement. I don't know what the word but it's really something like prayer. It's very touching, but let's say.
No, that's really fascinating. So he's sort of channeling his operatic, dramatic implications into a work like this because he couldn't write opera. This is, as you say, one of the finest examples of the form in which he wrote the sort of dramatic oratorio. I mean, can you talk a little bit about that? It's sort of written in a French style, but with very Italian sort of influences and sounds in it.
Yes, well, he has a strong influence of Carissimi in his music, while still, I mean, his style is absolutely French, and you can recognize it right away. He's a church composer because as I said before, he couldn't go to opera and stage, but it develops a strong sense of harmony, and his harmonies are always very rich and very special. That's to say, his harmonic language is not only fine but recognizable. That's to say, that's Charpentier. He uses a lot of harmonic suspensions, a lot of well, it might be a little technical, but +5. This is the harmony he loves to use, or the 9/7 also, which is a very expressive chord, and this is very typical of his music. So let's say that. We used to think that German music is much more intellectual and developed in harmony. But when you listen to Charpentier, you understand that in France also you had a very strong tradition of harmony, and that's why Rameau is born in this environment and is able to develop his theory on harmony in the early 18th century. So here the harmonic language is quite developed, and again with this night, this evocation of night, I think he's actually establishing the mystery of this birth and the what Christianity is, because of course it's the birth of the child, but of course you don't see the real birth. You just have this evocation of the mystery, and then the revel, I mean the joy of the shepherds, because the Christ is born. But of course it can't be just the idea of the giving birth to this child, because it wouldn't be mysterious enough for the believers, I guess.
Yeah. No, it's all beautifully shaped and beautifully written. And then speaking of the impact of that just instrumental section, it's followed on the album by these rather beautiful Noël Solar instruments which draw on carols. Tell me a bit about these. Would the carol tunes have been very familiar to your audiences, giving these a recognisable air? And what would these Noëls have been used for?
Well, it's exactly like Christmas carols in England. That was our tradition. This tradition has been cut off by the revolution. So everybody knew those tunes and would be singing them in Christmas time. Home or in the church or wherever they were very famous, and they were based on very popular simple melodies, a naive expression. So what Charpentier does, he is actually a little like Bach with his chorals. The chorals in Bach are very simple melodies, and everyone is able to sing them because they are very simple and they are meant to be easy to be sung. Here we have so these simple melodies, but with the very sophisticated harmonies of Charpentier. So he's making orchestral version of them. So it's not just an accompaniment. It is really a development and a wonderful setting of those melodies in proper orchestral pieces. Really, they are quite developed and quite convincing, I think, despite the naive inspiration, let's say.
Yeah, no, absolutely, very much in that tradition of taking a theme and developing it, like variations in a way. And when would they have been performed? Would they have been performed alongside a work like the Nativity at an event, or would they just have been used during the Christmas season in orchestral chamber performances?
Again, I can't help you. I don't know. I mean, these tunes were sung, of course. Maybe it was meant to accompany these song, so the songs, and maybe the people would sing along. But we don't really know about that. We have the titles, so we know that's the melodies are known by most people. But in which circumstances, I have no clue about this. I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know.
no, fair enough.
Gloria in excelsis Deo.
And then the idea of the carol tunes again reappears in the other very substantial work on the album, the Messe de Minuit pour Noël, the Mass. There again, these carol themes appear. Presumably, that was again just to give a sense of resonance and meaning for people.
Absolutely, absolutely. It sounded familiar to everybody listening to this music. Yet again, Charpentier is giving a very sophisticated music, despite of the simplicity of the tunes. So it's quite remarkable how he can put his harmonies and the counterpoint and choral writing he's using. So it is both very touching, very simple in expression, and yet a wonderful piece of music. This is a mass. That's to say, it's supposed to be sung during Christmas night. I mean, when you go to the mass, the messe de minuit, which is still vivid as a tradition in France, people go to the messe de minuit, so they go late and before coming back and opening the presents. So this tradition still exists, but of course we don't have this wonderful music of Charpentier to illustrate the mass nowadays. To come back to the Noël, there are versions through the 18th century of those Noël, especially in organ version, solo organ. And of course, the solo organ, when you play them, probably in Christmas time, possibly after an office, or it's probably related to the liturgy, but how, we don't know. But of course, in big churches like in Paris, because Charpentier was maître de chapelle in Notre Dame, so he had this responsibility, and he had an orchestra at his disposal. So he could have performed this Noël also during a mass. Why not, as an interlude? That's possible, because there are different characters, as you've noticed. Or vous dites Marie is perfect for the communion, for instance. That's perfect. It's such a beautiful and inspired music. So it can be, used during a ceremony.
What an extraordinary musical occasion that would have been for 17th century Parisians if that were the case. It's very as well as musically very beautiful, it's incredibly atmospheric, and actually thinking of it as something performed at midnight, waiting for the coming dawn of Christmas, you can really get that sense of what he was trying to achieve with it. But it's also very thoughtfully sort of word set, things like descended and ascended, marked by appropriate music. Una Sanctum Catholic et Apostolicum Ecclesiam sung homophonically in unison. So he's really thought about actually communicating a story through the music, the meaning of the words through the music.
Absolutely. And again, we talked about the dramatic sense, and I always think a mass is actually a performance in the church. And I always, not only in Charpentier, but in every mass I conduct, I think there is a dramaturgy. And when you say credo, it's something, or et incarnatus est, it is something dramatic. And Resurrexit is of course a very dramatic moment. So you have that also in this Mass de Minuit, despite the naive way of expression, but still, I mean, the drama is there, and I'm always keen on making that very clear in my interpretations.
No, it certainly is so on the recording. And it was recorded either during or following a tour, is that correct?
Exactly. So we were actually in tour, and we had those 3 days inside, and they've decided to record this program because it's something special, and it was also an opportunity for Monteverdi Choir and Orchestra to present maybe something a little more rare in their production, because French music is not exactly their specialty, and having me as a conductor was an opportunity for them. So a good conjunction of stars.
And recording it in conjunction with performing, presumably the live performance of the program enabled you just to really develop the rapport you have with them, and also your shared vision of what this music should sound like.
Yeah, and the program actually in concert was with some Bach cantatas. So of course this is more their repertoire. They've recorded everything, and they know exactly how to perform it. Of course, my vision was slightly different, but still, I mean, we could find a very easy way of understanding each other. While in Charpentier, I was about to say I fighted, but it was not a fight. It was more an invitation to another way of playing, of singing. I think what characterizes the French music is being relaxed, and Rameau says you have to hide the work by the art, and in French that's cacher l'art par l'art même. That's to say, you hide the effort, because of course singing or playing is an effort, but you have to hide it, and it seems very natural and very easy. That's the way to perform French music, and the French spirit is also the nonchalance. That's to say, you don't show any emotion or effort. Maybe English people are, let's say, more expert than French people nowadays, but in the 18th century, that was really what characterized the French spirit. That's to say, I'm doing it, but I don't show any effort. That's the nonchalance.
That's so interesting to think to the works, but also to try and perform in that style. And I also noticed, looking at the recording dates, it was recorded in mid-December, which is actually not very common for Christmas albums. I've been to many recordings of Christmas music which take place in blazing sunshine in the middle of the year. So that must have added some atmosphere to it, and particularly in Gospel Oak, a really very beautiful and atmospheric London church.
It was in the church. It was freezing cold. I had my first violin sneezing all the time. So that was the Christmas atmosphere, absolutely. But I don't know how much it influences the spirit of this music, but still, I mean, it's that was absolutely in the conditions.
And obviously you've now been working with the Monteverdi Choir and English Baroque soloists for what are your plans? What are your next projects? Are you able to talk about those?
Yes, absolutely. Next Christmas program with the Messiah, Handel Messiah. So we will make a tour of it in December. We go to Rome. We go to for Christmas. Going to Rome is a privilege. We go to Milan, La Scala. We go to Paris, and we go to London. In St. Martin in the Fields, which is the field of Monteverdi Choir. So it's a nice tour, and it will be recorded by the BBC and possibly also make a recording. A proper CD out of it. So it's quite an honor for me to be conducting this very emblematic English piece with this emblematic English group in London with the BBC. So I feel very honored. Yes.
Well, we look forward to that very much. Just a reminder that Charpentier, a Baroque Christmas by my guest today, Christophe Rousset, with the Monteverdi Choir and English Baroque soloists, is available now on the ensemble's own label, SDG. Christophe Rousset, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
I hope you have enjoyed this episode of the Gramophone Podcast just as much as we did producing and preparing it. And a reminder that you can explore our archive of more than 500 episodes. Simply search for Gramophone wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And talking of subscribing, throughout the month of December, you can find a range of special Christmas subscription offers for Gramophone Magazine itself, as well as for our sister titles, Choir and Organ, International Piano and Opera Now. It would make a perfect gift for a loved one, or indeed even for yourself. Just visit gramophone.co.uk and do look out for another Gramophone podcast next week.